The price of suspicion. He threw her out, convinced she was a cheat. 7 years later, he found her in a hospital, standing next to a boy with eyes that mirrored his own. What happened in those 7 years? The hidden letters, the lie, and the explosive truth are about to shatter his life. Are you ready for the deepest betrayal? This is the price of suspicion. Before we dive in, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and let me know your immediate thoughts in the comments. Part 1. The Betrayal. The air in the London flat was thick with the scent of stale money and dried-up ambition. The bay windows were open, yet the air remained still. The heat clung to the expensive wallpaper like contained fury, suffocating. Upstairs, Ethan Vance, the high-flying finance executive, paced his study. His jaw was clenched, his eyes vacant. A stack of photographs lay scattered across the polished mahogany desk. Each image was a punch. Every silence, a strangled scream. "I warned you, Anya. I warned you I would never tolerate this." His voice was a knife dragging across concrete. There was no doubt left. Whatever small love remained, if any, was crushed under tons of suspicion. Anya Sharma stopped in the doorway, trembling, her hands open at her sides, as if trying to contain an internal storm. "Ethan," her voice was barely a whisper. "Look at me. At least do that." He didn't look. He snatched up the photos violently, as if they could shield him from facing her. The images. Anya at a quiet cafe. Anya smiling next to a man he didn't recognize. Anya entering an office building that wasn't hers. They seemed to confirm everything Ethan feared. "Do you think I'm an idiot?" He slammed the pictures onto the living room table. "Do you think I don't know what these photos mean?" She stepped closer, unafraid of his tone, but with a sadness carried by someone weary of defending herself. "I don't know who took those photos or where you got them, but I never betrayed you, Ethan. Never." "You think you're going to convince me with that?" His laugh was bitter. In the corner of the room, sitting like a statue, Evelyn Vance, his mother, observed the scene. Her eyes were cold, with a cynicism disguised as compassion. She was the one who had delivered the photos. She was the one who, in a low voice and with worried eyes, had whispered to her son, days earlier, "I don't want people to see you as a fool. Look at this, and draw your own conclusions." Anya turned to her mother-in-law, her eyes full of tears, but her voice still held firm. "You know this is a lie, that these photos, the photos don't prove anything." Evelyn elegantly crossed her legs. She took a slow sip of her now cold tea. "I know what I saw, dear, and you know very well what I'm talking about. Crying won't help you now. Ethan has the right to know who he married." Anya flinched as if struck by an invisible slap. She looked at Ethan, who was clenching his fists, his jaw tight. He still wouldn't look at her. "I never asked you to choose between your mother and me, Ethan. But now I'm asking you to look me in the face and tell me if you truly believe this." There was a silence. One of those silences that isn't empty, but full of pain, pride, and things that hurt too much to be spoken. Ethan looked out the window. The orange light of the setting sun cut through the London skyline like a hot blade. And it was only then, without looking at her, that he spoke. "Get out of this house today." The world stopped for an instant. Even the wind seemed to hush. Anya took a step back, as if the floor had sunk beneath her. She searched his eyes for any crack, any sign of the man she knew. But there was only darkness. "Do you really want this? I don't want to live with someone who lies to me, who cheats behind my back, who smiles at me by day and betrays me by night." She shook her head slowly, like someone watching another drown without being able to reach them. Her gaze was now dry, but her whole body trembled. A short laugh escaped her lips. "Do you truly believe I would be capable of that to you? It doesn't matter anymore." He picked up a pen and threw the divorce papers onto the table. Just sign." Anya didn't reply. She walked to the armchair. She sat in silence and read every line. Her fingers hesitated as she picked up the pen. For a moment, Ethan thought she would refuse, cause a scene, or scream. But no. She signed. The sound of the pen scratching the paper was louder than any cry. Evelyn stood up, satisfied. The play was over. Anya rose. She walked to the staircase. She picked up a suitcase that was already packed, as if she had anticipated everything, and stopped at the door. She didn't look at her mother-in-law. She didn't look at the room. Only at Ethan. Her voice was low, almost broken, but firm. "Someday you will realize what you chose to believe." And she left. The door closed with a dry bang, like the end of a chapter no one wanted to write. Inside, Ethan stood motionless, staring at the wooden door. Inside, his heart was still burning, but there was something strange about that fire. Something that hurt more than rage. Something that was, perhaps, doubt. But he didn't know it yet. Not yet. What would you have done in Anya's place? Share your first reactions below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for the shocking revelations coming next. Part 2. The Re-Encounter. Night fell over London with a suffocating weight, and the house, now without Anya, felt bigger. Empty, as if the rooms knew something essential had left and wouldn't return soon. Years later, the memory of that afternoon still repeated in Ethan's dreams with the precision of a trained nightmare. He always woke up at the same part, the door closing, the suitcase going down the steps, the click of the lock, and a silence that seemed to live inside him even today. It was an ordinary day, one of those that promises nothing and ends up changing everything. That Ethan walked into St. Jude's Hospital in Manchester. He was there to accompany a client from his firm who had felt unwell during a meeting. He didn't even know the hospital, but the name sounded familiar. St. Jude's. A word. Hope. He had avoided for a long time. As he waited in the lobby, a disinfectant aroma mixed with the bittersweet smell of plastic flowers filled the air. Children cried in some corner, nurses hurried past with clipboards, and a constant murmur permeated the place with an invisible tension. Ethan was trying not to sink into his own thoughts when something, or someone, froze him. She passed without seeing him, a staff badge hanging from her neck, a clipboard pressed against her chest, and her hair pulled back in a hurried bun. Anya. The world seemed to tilt sideways. It wasn't a memory. It wasn't an hallucination. It was her. Her assured stride, her gaze straight ahead, shoulders carrying more than just the workday shift. Ethan stood up, unsure if he should utter her name. Something inside him beat fiercely. Her name burned in his throat, but he didn't call her. He just followed. Dragged by an invisible thread, she turned right, towards the pediatric ward. She entered a room, and it was there, right in front of that door, that Ethan stopped. And he saw a boy, alone, sitting on a high bench, his feet dangling in the air as if counting the seconds. His face was turned slightly. His eyebrows were arched in a familiar way, the same type of nose, the chin tilted a little. But what froze Ethan was his gaze. That gaze. It was like seeing himself at 8 years old. The boy saw him too, and stared back, without fear, as if time had stopped for the two of them to study each other. The boy's eyes narrowed, as if trying to fit an impossible memory. Ethan felt a punch in the chest. It couldn't be. Oh yes. The door opened. Anya came out with a file in her hand, and froze when she saw him. Her eyes widened, her body tensed. For a second, neither of them said anything. The silence of the hospital seemed to absorb even the sounds around them. "Ethan?" she said. in a tone that was more shock than nostalgia. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. He looked at the boy again, then at her. It took an effort to say, "Is he my son?" His voice came out rough, almost breathless, as if it had been stored for years in a locked box. Anya didn't reply immediately. Her face hardened as if she were putting on a mask. Her eyes, once soft, now held something like steel. Still, they trembled. She took a breath. "Yes, he is." Ethan leaned his hand on the back of a chair. He needed to hold on to something. The boy was still watching them, with a curiosity only children have, and a silence that hurt more than screams. "Why, Anya?" she started, but interrupted herself. He wanted to ask everything at once. "Why did you never tell me? Why did you disappear?" "Because now." Anya looked down and spoke before he could ask. "That changes nothing, Ethan." The words were cold, like someone building a wall before the other tries to climb it. She took a step forward, as if to end the conversation. The boy instinctively stood up. He ran to her and grabbed her hand. "Mom?" She lowered her face and smiled at him, a forced smile, but still tender. "It's all right, Noah. This man, I know him from a long time ago." Ethan felt a knot as he heard the name. "Noah?" He opened his mouth but couldn't say anything. Anya looked at him again. There was pain in her eyes, but also a firmness he had never seen. She was the woman he knew, and another woman at the same time, one who had been forced to become stronger than she wanted. "He needs some tests, and I have work to do," she said with a cutting tone. "Anya, wait." Ethan took a step. "I don't understand. Why you?" "Not here," she interrupted. "Not in front of him." Her voice came out in a dry whisper, her eyes allowed no rebuttal. Noah was still watching them, his brow furrowed, trying to understand what this man meant. It had been made clear. But children don't reason with logic. They feel. And at that moment, Ethan saw something even more devastating. The boy trusted her, completely. And he was a stranger. "Can I see him again?" Anya pursed her lips, thoughtful. Her heart was at war with caution. Then she said quietly, "He has anemia. We'll be back on Friday. If you're still here, maybe." She turned and walked away down the corridor. Noah looked back once more, and Ethan, for the first time in years, felt excluded from something that was his. Something that carried his blood. His name. But not his history. He stood there, motionless, the echo of their footsteps fading into the distance. The name Noah swirled in his mind like a bell that wouldn't stop ringing. And in his chest, an emptiness. One that time doesn't heal. Only truth does. How do you think Ethan will react to this devastating discovery? What would be your first move if you were in his shoes? Comment your most sincere emotions. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for the next part of this emotional roller coaster. Part 3. The Confession and the Choice. That night, Ethan didn't go home. He drove aimlessly through the streets of Manchester until the city was just a blur in the rearview mirror. He parked at a high point, where he could see the rooftops like puzzle pieces scattered in the dark. And he stayed there, hands trembling on the steering wheel, his mind filled with a presence that was no longer just a memory. It was flesh. It was voice. It was a gaze reflected in a child who carried his face in miniature. Time couldn't go back, but the questions could. Why hadn't they sought him out? And that hurt more. Had they looked for him after all? The next morning, Ethan didn't go to the office. He called an assistant, invented an excuse, and drove straight to London. The trip back to his parents' old house was a painful immersion into a past he had avoided for years. With every mile, he recalled the suffocated arguments, the slammed doors, and the day Anya vanished from his life with a phrase that now sounded almost like a prophecy. Someday you will realize what you chose to believe. That day had arrived. Evelyn's house was the same. The beige facade, the dark wood windows, the artificial flowers at the entrance. But now it seemed smaller. Or perhaps it was he who no longer fit there. He knocked twice. Nothing. He tried the handle. It was unlocked. He walked in unceremoniously, and the smell hit him hard. Old perfume, eucalyptus, something too sweet. Everything was the same, everything suffocating. He called for her, but only an echo replied. He walked to his mother's study. He stopped in front of the antique desk with its golden handles and varnished wood. It had always had a lock. He knew it, and he also knew where the key was, stuck with adhesive tape behind the mirror. He opened it with trembling hands. Inside were old papers, bills, yellowed letters, a silver brooch, and then an envelope, white, addressed to him. In handwriting he would recognize even with his eyes closed. Anya. The date in the corner was 3 months after the divorce. He had never seen that letter. Never. Ethan opened it slowly, as if something might explode. Ethan, I'm writing this letter not knowing if you'll ever read it. I've tried to call you. I even went to your door, but Evelyn said you were out. Maybe you are, or maybe you just don't want to see me. I'd understand. But I need to tell you this, even if you decide to tear this letter up when you're finished. I didn't do any of the things they said. I swore it to you, and I still swear it. There was no betrayal. It was all a trap. I loved you. I still love you. And there's something you need to know. I'm pregnant. Ethan felt his stomach churn. The letter fell to the floor, but he didn't fall. Not now. He pulled open every drawer, every lock, and there were more. More envelopes, all addressed to him, each with different dates. A flow of stored, censored, silenced desperation spanning years. It was true. She had tried. He went to the kitchen. He needed water, but the taste of guilt already dried his throat. The sound of the front door opening broke his trance. Evelyn walked in, dragging a shopping bag, talking to herself about the traffic. Seeing her son there, with the envelope in his hand, she froze. And then, for a second, the mask slipped. Did you come to see your mother without warning? Why didn't you give me these letters? The question was a sharp blow. She hesitated. What letters? Ethan showed her the envelope, Anya's name clearly written on the front. His hands were trembling, but his gaze was firmer than ever. Don't lie, not now. Evelyn composed herself. She went to the sink, took a glass, filled it with water, drank, and then let it out. I did what was best for you. Best? His voice rose. Hiding that I had a son was best? She turned fully. There was a bitter shadow in her eyes. That woman would have destroyed your life. You were blind for her. I had to open your eyes. And for that, you lied. You separated me from her. You kept me from my own son. Evelyn stepped closer, as if trying to calm an injured animal. Ethan, she was going to drag you into a life of misery. You were about to leave everything for her. Your career, your future, for a woman who had no family. She had me! The shout echoed through the house. A heavy silence fell between them. Ethan's breathing was ragged, as if every revealed truth was stealing his air. He looked at his mother as if he had never truly seen her. You destroyed everything. She tried to take his hand. He pulled away. Get out of my way! Get out, Evelyn! The door slammed shut behind him with an ancient fury. The same fury with which, years earlier, he himself had thrown Anya out. History repeated itself, but now he was on the other side. The chilling truth is revealed. How do you think Ethan will confront this devastating betrayal from his own mother? What would you do in his place? Comment your strongest emotions. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for the next emotional chapter. Part 4. The Sacrifice and the Hope. He drove back to Manchester like a man on fire, eyes fixed on the road, his mind a whirlwind of images, the letter, the boy, Anya's gaze when she said, "That changes nothing." He arrived at his own house like someone invading an alien place. He needed to see more, to know everything. He searched through old boxes, forgotten accounts. He found the old landline phone number he used back then. And then, a call history. Several missed calls, a number he didn't recognize. When he dialed it on his mobile, the name that appeared was like a punch to the chest. Anya. And then, as if something screamed inside him, Ethan took his phone and called. She answered on the third ring. "Ethan?" Her voice wasn't surprised. It was hard. She had been expecting it. "I found the letters. Silence. My mother. She lied to me. She broke everything. She stopped me from knowing." Anya didn't respond. He continued. "You tried to tell me. You tried. And I wouldn't listen." His voice broke. For the first time, he wept. On the other side, the sound of her breath. And then, a sentence that was not a pardon, but not a punishment either. "Do you understand it now?" Yes. Now he understood. But understanding was only the beginning. 2 days later, Ethan was back at St. Jude's Hospital. Not by chance, not by fate, but by urgency. Anya had called him. Her voice was steady, but her eyes in the video call showed what her mouth didn't say. Noah was sick. An infection had progressed too quickly. His body wasn't responding well to antibiotics, and blood tests revealed a worrying pattern. The diagnosis hit like a punch. Severe aplastic anemia. The rare kind. The kind where the body stops producing blood cells. The kind that needs a donor. Ethan arrived at the hospital before dawn. Sleepless. Unsure if he still had the right to be there. But with an unwavering certainty that he couldn't not be there. Anya was waiting for him at the entrance to the pediatric area, her hair down, her eyes sunken. Seeing him, she said nothing. There was no hug, no reproach, just a slight nod. "He's asleep," she said, guiding Ethan down the silent corridor. The room was small, but clean. Beige curtains, a side table, a worn armchair next to the bed where Noah slept, his arm connected to the IV line. The boy's pallor pained his eyes. Ethan couldn't recognize the child who had looked at him with distrust days ago. This little boy now seemed too fragile to carry any judgment. "The doctor said the transplant must be soon. We need compatibility." Ethan just nodded. He didn't ask what he already knew. He didn't make a scene. He simply offered his arm. His vein. His blood. The tests were done that same day, and by late afternoon, the confirmation. Compatible. Anya didn't cry when she heard it, but her breath hitched for an instant, as if something inside her had finally dropped its guard. "Do you want to stay with him tonight?" she asked, her voice hoarse, leaning on the doorframe. "I want to," Ethan replied. That night, he sat beside the bed, a thin blanket over his legs, his gaze fixed on the boy's face. He still didn't know if he could call him son without invading something sacred. But inside him, that place was already occupied. Completely. Anya slept in the waiting room. Ethan, alone with the boy, took his phone. He opened old audio files, conversations he no longer answered. He searched around the time of the divorce. He found an audio from Anya he had never listened to. It was there, unplayed, dated 2 days after her departure. He pressed play. "Ethan, I know you won't listen to me, but I need to say this. I loved you. Your mother. She lied to you. And I tried. I swear, I tried to make you see, but now it's not up to me anymore. I'm tired. But I wanted you to know that what we had was real, even if it ended like this." Ethan closed his eyes. Her voice was a punch, a nostalgia soaked in pain. Time was giving him everything back now, in slow motion. The coldness with which he doubted, the yelling, the divorce signed with arrogance. All that time. She had told the truth. He opened his phone gallery. He searched for photos. He learned to see the details. Anya smiling with him at an old restaurant, her hand on her belly. Months before the end. A photo he had ignored. Now he saw she was already pregnant. The world didn't change suddenly. It was he who hadn't known how to look. On the morning of this procedure, the hospital seemed frozen in a special silence. Ethan changed. He lay down on the gurney. He received local anesthesia. The process wouldn't be simple, but he didn't hesitate. The needle penetrated his marrow, extracting the most intimate part of his body, and he accepted every second of pain as part of the sentence. In the next room, Anya waited, alone. Shoulders slumped, eyes red, not from the illness. She dealt with that like a mother, but from his presence. Now, here, giving himself. Too late to erase the past. Too soon to promise a future. "He's going to be fine," the doctor said hours later. "With time, his body will react and get better." Ethan walked out of the room, pale, unsteady, but with a genuinely sincere smile for the first time. "Thank you," Anya whispered, unable to look at him for long. "I'm the one who thanks you for letting me help." In the room, Noah woke up. He looked at both of them, still groggy. "Mom, who is he?" The question came without resentment, only curiosity. Anya took his hand. She looked at Ethan, as if asking permission. He nodded with an almost imperceptible gesture. "He is someone who cares very much about you, and who is here for you." Noah didn't respond. He just closed his eyes, tired. He turned his face to the side, and Ethan approached carefully. He stroked his hair with his fingertips, with a reverent respect, as if he were glass, as if he were his. In that touch, he felt something different. It wasn't remorse, nor guilt. It was a kind of love that hurt, a critical decision made, a life saved, and the first steps toward a new kind of family. What do you think this act of sacrifice means for the future of Ethan and Anya? What would you do in his place? Comment your sincere emotions. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for the emotional path ahead. Conclusion. The silent promise. The next night, Ethan returned home. His body still felt the extraction, but the pain that mattered was different. He picked up his phone and replayed the audio. Then he opened a messaging app and found his last conversation with Anya, dated 3 years ago. A happy birthday that she never replied to. Now he wrote, his fingers trembling. "Anya, I'm here. I won't leave again." And he set the phone aside. He didn't expect an answer. He wasn't asking for forgiveness. He just wanted to stay. For the first time, the pain of the guilt he had finally understood didn't disappear. It transformed into a silent plea, into a gesture, into a presence, given with blood. Why? Sometimes love doesn't return as it was. It returns as an opportunity. The hospital was asleep, but not everyone was resting. In the back courtyard, where few passed at night, there was a wooden bench, warped by time. Ethan was sitting there, his coat open over his shoulders, his hands clasped, his gaze lost in a darkness that offered no answers. The city breathed in the distance, indifferent. The headlights of cars cut across the silent road. But for him, the whole world narrowed down to that faint light over the emergency room door, and to what Anya still hadn't said, or what she no longer wanted to say. He heard footsteps before he saw her. She wasn't running, nor hesitating, just walking, like someone who knows she has to be there, even if she doesn't know why yet. Seeing him, she said nothing. She stopped a meter away, her arms crossed. Her expression was tired, but there was no anger in her eyes, only exhaustion, only defense. He gestured with his head, offering her a space on the bench. She hesitated, then sat down, but far enough away to make it clear it wasn't intimacy. It was just a need to listen. "I haven't slept since the day I saw you two," Ethan said softly, without drama. "Since that first look from Noah, I've never seen anything so clearly." Anya didn't reply. Her breathing was slow, heavy, but he continued. "I'm not saying this to ask for forgiveness. I know it changes nothing. But there is something that hurts me more than anything else. It's that I saw what he needed, and I saw that it wasn't me." She looked straight ahead, not facing him. "And you still came?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because I would do anything for him, and for both of you, if you would let me." She let out a brief laugh. There was no humor in it, only disbelief. "Ethan, you had years to wake up, and now you show up after everything, expecting me to simply accept it." He turned his face to her, his eyes full of a weariness that wasn't physical. "I don't expect you to accept it, only to listen. Let me speak now. You've been talking alone for years." Anya shifted on the bench, uncomfortable with the weight of his words, but she didn't interrupt. "I was weak. I let myself be carried away by anger, by pride, by my mother, and that's not an excuse. It's cowardice, pure and simple. I chose to believe what prevented me from thinking. It was easier to blame you than to admit that perhaps the mistake was mine." She hugged herself, as if needing protection. "You trusted me enough to call me for Noah." Ethan's voice cracked, but he continued. "And I can't pretend that doesn't mean anything, because even with everything they did to you, with everything I did, you still let a part of me be near him. That says more than any 'I'm sorry.'" "I came for him," she said, looking at him for the first time. "And when all this passes, I'll leave again." There was silence. One of those silences that hurt. Ethan lowered his head, his voice softer than ever. "Then let me make this right. Let me show you that if I had known the truth, I would have stayed. Let me show you that if I had known he existed, I would have done everything. Everything differently. That I wouldn't have let go of your hand." Anya remained silent for so long that he thought she would get up and leave. But that's not what she did. "What exactly do you want to show me?" Her voice was now sharper. "That you're a good father, a good man, that you're sorry, all that? It doesn't work that way, Ethan. You can feel it. But that doesn't erase what happened. It doesn't erase how you made me quieto. The days I tried to contact you while you ignored me. It doesn't erase the months of fear, raising a child alone, or the nights pretending to be okay because I had no one left. None of that disappears just because you want to make it right now." "I know it doesn't disappear," he replied, a knot in his throat. "But I'm still here, and I won't leave." She closed her eyes. For a second, her armor cracked, but she immediately recomposed herself. "You say that now, when he needs you, when guilt weighs on you, and later, when he gets better, when your life returns to normal. Do you think I'm that kind of man? I don't know who you are anymore. I don't." The phrase was said with coldness, but without hatred. "Then get to know me again," he said. "Give me that chance, even if it's just so you can hate me for a good reason, and not for the version my mother sold you." She looked at the ground, her brow furrowed. There was a war in her eyes, and he knew it. Because for years he had pretended that war didn't exist. Now he saw it. "Ethan, I'm not asking you to come back, nor to pretend you've forgiven me. Just let time do what I couldn't. Listen to you." The silence was now lighter, less heavy. Anya looked at him. Finally. And something in her eyes was different. It wasn't surrender. It was doubt. But it wasn't rejection. "He likes strawberry ice cream, And he hates beets. Me too, Ethan replied without smiling. He's afraid to sleep in the dark. Me too. She slowly let out her breath. Her hand rested on her lap, trembling. He extended his own, not to touch her, just to show it was there, and that he wouldn't hide anymore. Anya didn't take it, but she didn't pull away either. And perhaps that, for now, was enough. A fragile truce, built on honesty and a child's love. Epilogue. A silent hour. The weeks that followed weren't like a movie. There were no flowers at the door, nor declarations in rain-soaked cafes. There was silence, and one step after another. There was Noah smiling again more often. Ethan picking him up from school when he could. Anya watching from a distance, with the care of someone protecting a wound that was still exposed, even if it was healing. Ethan didn't force his presence. He simply was. He brought a sandwich for Noah's break without asking if he could. He said goodnight, even if she didn't reply. Sometimes he sat on the hospital sofa just to listen to their voices. It was the silence that had once been absent in his absence, but reconstruction also has its limits. And Anya, despite everything, still held her entire being under the armor of the past. That afternoon, while Ethan washed the dishes from an improvised lunch, she entered the kitchen. She watched him in silence, his shirt sleeves rolled up to the elbows, his simple movements, the silence that demanded nothing. He turned and smiled. She didn't return the smile. "We need to talk." He dried his hands with the cloth. His expression turned serious. "About what you want from me? From us? I don't want an us if it's only going to be a memory. I don't want to go back. I want a beginning," he said. She shook her head slowly. "You say that now, but time doesn't go back, Ethan. And Noah, he can't suffer again. I can't risk that. Can you love me today? But what about tomorrow?" Ethan approached, not quickly, not dramatically, but calmly, like someone who respects the pain of the person in front of him. "Tomorrow, I don't know, but today, I am here. And tomorrow, I will choose to be here again. And the day after tomorrow, too. Not out of obligation, but because every day I spend near him and near you reminds me of what I lost and what I can still build if you let me, if you let." She didn't back away, but she didn't yield either. She just closed her eyes for an instant, as if searching for air. "You say that as if it were simple. It's not. So why does it seem so light to you?" "Because I already lived the worst, and I discovered that the worst wasn't losing you. It was not having listened to you, never having read your letters, not having held Noah in my arms when he was born. The worst was knowing that all of that could have been different, and that it was my fault. Carrying that isn't light. But being here is the only thing that makes the weight bearable." She looked at him in a way that mixed fear and tenderness, the same expression of someone who sees the rain coming and wants to stay, but fears getting wet again. "What if I tell you I can't believe you anymore? I won't try to convince you. I'll just be. I'll listen to you. I'll give you time." He moved a little closer. He didn't touch her. He just held out his hand. A simple gesture, without demand. She hesitated, looked at his hand, looked at him, looked at the floor. And for the first time, she didn't retreat. She let her own trembling hand find his. The contact was light, but enough. Ethan squeezed it gently. She didn't pull away. "I don't promise the world, Anya, but I promise to listen to you. And if one day you leave, it will be because you decided to. Never again because I closed my eyes." She looked down. A tear fell, silent, without warning. He didn't wipe it away. He said nothing. He just remained there, holding her hand, with the exact firmness of someone who knows that love is not conquered. It is cared for. And if you can't forgive, I won't ask that of you. Just that one day you managed to live without this hurting you so much. She felt it. Still in silence. And something in that gesture wasn't a yes, but it wasn't a no either. It was just presence. And as he had said before, sometimes that is enough. That night, she stayed. She didn't sleep in her own room. She slept with Noah, as in the most difficult days. But she let Ethan read him a story before the boy fell asleep. He sat on the edge of the bed, listening to his voice tremble at first, then firm, then surrendered. "Daddy," Noah whispered at the end, drowsy. "Ethan!" He stopped. His heart pounded. Anya looked at him and said nothing. But she bit her lip to contain something she didn't know was pain or relief. "I'm here, son," Ethan replied. It was the first time he heard that word, and it seemed that life had finally given him permission to deserve it. Anya left the room without saying more. She went to the living room, sat on the sofa, turned on the dimmest light. Ethan arrived minutes later. "Did you hear him?" He chose to call me that. "Trust, sir." "Trust." She looked away. The armor was gone. Only a woman who carried too much pain, and who now saw hope on the other side. "Tomorrow is going to hurt," she said. "Because tomorrow it will feel like everything could end again. And if it ends, it won't be your fault. But I will be here, as long as you let me." She rested her head on his shoulder. It wasn't a new beginning. It was just a rest, an interval, an hour. And in that instant, that was enough. The sky outside was already beginning to change. A muted blue tone appeared on the horizon, slowly pushing the night out of the room. Ethan adjusted the pillow under Noah's head and gently laid him down. Then he got up, slowly stretching his legs. Anya also stood. She walked towards him. They looked at each other, without haste, like someone still testing the ground. He caressed her face, a face he knew, yet was learning again. She said nothing, but she didn't pull away. And in that instant, under the near light of day, the three of them belonged, finally, to the same place, without haste, without demands, simply together. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to believe that new beginnings are possible. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and follow other chapters where love, pain, and hope meet, just like in real life. Because sometimes, all we need is a second chance. The new rhythm. The weeks turned into months, establishing a new, fragile rhythm in their lives. It was a routine built not on romance, but on the quiet, consistent labor of rebuilding a foundation. Ethan didn't move in, but he was always close. He rented a modest apartment a 15-minute walk from Anya's. He called it his forward operating base. He was present for Noah, without being demanding. He learned about Noah's aversion to sudden noises, his love for building elaborate Lego castles, and his habit of humming off-key when concentrating. Ethan, the former cutthroat executive, now spent his evenings reading superhero graphic novels and practicing the intricate folding of paper airplanes. Anya watched. Her initial armor had softened into a cautious vigilance. She never openly encouraged his presence, but she stopped providing excuses for his absence. Their conversations were strictly logistical: school pickups, doctor's appointments, and Noah's favorite brand of strawberry ice cream. The emotional distance remained vast. One afternoon, Ethan volunteered to chaperone Noah's school trip to the Manchester Museum of Science and Industry. Anya was busy with a long shift, and she needed the help. During the trip, a small girl accidentally bumped Noah, causing him to drop his treasured paper plane. Noah, still fragile from his illness, burst into tears, not of pain, but of frustration. The other parents looked awkward. Ethan, instead of sweeping in to fix it, knelt down, meeting Noah at eye level. "Hey pal, it's just paper," Ethan said softly. "It can be fixed. We just need to find the mistake, fold it differently, and try again. That's the best part of paper." Noah sniffled, looking at the crumpled paper. "Can we?" "We can," Ethan promised. "We always can." He spent the next 20 minutes sitting on the cold stone floor, meticulously smoothing out the creases and refolding the plane. When Noah launched it again, it flew straight and true, soaring across the hall. Noah laughed, a full, ringing sound that made Ethan's heart swell, with a pain that was oddly welcome. Anya heard about the incident later that evening. She found Ethan waiting by her front door, holding a bag of takeout. "He told me about that plane," Anya said, leaning against the doorframe. "He's a good kid," Ethan mumbled, looking down at his shoes. "He just needs to know he won't break when things get bumpy." "No," Anya corrected him, her voice quiet. "You said, we always can fix it. That's what he needed to hear. That's what I needed to hear all those years ago. It wasn't a forgiveness, it was a recognition. What is the most crucial quality Ethan needs to demonstrate to earn Anya's trust? Consistency, humility, or the ability to listen? Share your opinion in the comments. Facing the ghost, the real challenge came when the ghost of the past tried to return. Ethan received a distressed call from his younger sister, Clara, a woman who had quietly distanced herself from their mother, Evelyn, over the years. "Ethan, Mom's had a small fall. Nothing serious, but she's asking for you. She's talking about the will," Clara whispered over the phone. The name Evelyn was a cold weight. Ethan hadn't spoken to his mother since the day he confronted her about the letters, 3 years ago. Anya saw the tension in his shoulders when he hung up the phone. "What is it?" "My mother. She's sick. She wants me to go to London." Anya looked at him, her gaze unwavering. "Are you going?" "I don't know," Ethan admitted, running a hand through his hair. "I owe her nothing. She tore our life apart for pride. But she is still." "The reason you made your choice," Anya finished for him. "The temptation of her approval led you to believe her lies. Going back now." Thornton is stepping back into that old pressure cooker. Ethan realized the danger instantly. Returning to that house, to that environment of manipulation and wealth, without the anchor of his new values, was a risk. He could easily revert to the defensive, angry man he used to be. "I need to go," Ethan said, making a firm decision. Not for the will, but to end it, to set the record straight. "But I can't do it without you," Anya frowned. "Me? Why?" "Because you are the proof. You are my clarity. If I go alone, I'll be fighting the old battle. If I go with you, I'm showing her the new life, the life she tried to erase. I need you there to keep me honest, to remind me what I'm fighting for." Anya hesitated, the thought of facing her manipulative former mother-in-law filling her with dread. But she looked at the courage in Ethan's eyes, a humility she respected, and she saw an opportunity to finally close that painful chapter. Not for him, but for her own peace. "I won't go as your wife, Ethan," Anya stated. "I will go as the mother of your son, and the woman you should have listened to." The return to the lion's den. The following weekend, they drove to London. The moment they stepped into the sterile elegance of Evelyn's penthouse, the old dynamic snapped into place. Evelyn, though frail, was still formidable, wrapped in silk robes, sipping expensive sherry. "Ethan, darling, you came, and you brought—" Evelyn paused, her cold gaze sweeping over Anya. "The nurse, I presume?" "No, mother," Ethan said, his voice steady. "This is Anya. She is the mother of your grandson, Noah." The look of shock on Evelyn's face was the first genuine emotion Ethan had seen there in decades. Anya stood firm, arms crossed, meeting Evelyn's gaze without flinching. "You had a son?" Evelyn whispered, betrayal evident in her tone. "You didn't tell me. You sealed the letters that told me," Ethan retorted, pulling a stack of yellowed envelopes from his briefcase and dropping them onto the glass table. You lied to me. You stole 7 years of my son's life and ruined my marriage for a lie based on your own vanity. I'm not here for your money, Mother. I'm here to tell you that I chose my family. I chose the truth. And I'm writing you out of my life, not because of what you did to me, but because of what you did to an innocent child." Evelyn was speechless, her power dissolving around her. Anya, watching the man who had thrown her out now standing up for her truth, felt a final, painful piece of the armor around her heart break away. He wasn't the man who had destroyed her life. He was the man fighting to be worthy of the one he had tried to ruin. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was closure. And for Anya, that was the most profound form of healing. If you witnessed Ethan finally standing up to his mother, what would your final verdict on his redemption be? Do you think Anya will finally allow herself to love him again? Comment your thoughts. Don't forget to share this powerful moment with a friend, and subscribe to the channel for the ultimate conclusion, the quiet aftermath. The confrontation with Evelyn was the sharp, necessary cut that allowed the wound to finally heal. The drive back to Manchester was quiet, but it was a silence free of the old, suffocating tension. It was the silence of two people who had faced their darkest past and walked out side by side. Anya didn't thank Ethan for the confrontation. She didn't need to. The simple fact that she sat beside him, no longer needing to guard her heart against his weakness, was enough. A few weeks later, Noah's recovery was complete. He was healthy, vibrant, and completely oblivious to the dramatic war fought for his existence. The small miracle of the bone marrow transplant was a constant, living reminder of Ethan's selfless act. One Saturday afternoon, Ethan was visiting. He was sitting on the floor, helping Noah assemble a ridiculously complicated Lego castle. Noah suddenly looked up at him, those familiar blue eyes serious. "Daddy," Noah started, testing the word softly. Ethan froze, the Lego brick halfway to the wall. He hadn't heard the word daddy since the hospital, and he had never expected to hear it again. "You still look sad sometimes." Ethan forced a small smile. "Do I, pal? Sometimes I just think about things." "The broken airplane?" Noah asked, referring to the incident at the museum. "Something like that," Ethan admitted. Noah patted Ethan's arm with his small hand. "It's okay to break, Daddy. Mommy fixes everything." Ethan's throat tightened. He looked up and saw Anya standing in the doorway, watching them. Her expression was unreadable, a mixture of profound exhaustion and deep tenderness. What is the true meaning of Noah calling Ethan Daddy now? Is it forgiveness, acceptance, or the bridge needed to heal their parents' past? Share your thoughts. The kitchen conversation later. After Noah was tucked in, Ethan and Anya were in the kitchen. Ethan was scrubbing the leftover sauce from the pan, a domestic routine that felt more meaningful than any boardroom meeting ever had. "He called me Daddy," Ethan said, his voice low and ragged. "I don't deserve that." Anya walked up to the counter, took a rag, and started drying the dishes, matching his quiet industry. "Deserve is an old word, Ethan. It belongs to the old life, the one where you had to earn affection with success." She looked at him, her eyes finally clear, free of the residual steel. "You can't earn back the past. You can only earn the future. And that's what he's offering you, a new beginning, with no scorekeeping." Ethan placed the clean pan on the rack. He turned to face her, the proximity feeling electric after months of maintaining physical distance. "And what are you offering?" he asked, his voice shaking slightly. "You let me stay for him. You let me fight my mother for us. You let me see the truth. But you haven't told me what you want, Anya. What do you need to finally let go?" Anya closed her eyes for a moment, letting out a slow, heavy breath. "I need one thing, Ethan. I need to know you are no longer running from vulnerability. You left because you saw my love as a weakness, as a risk to your perfect world. Do you know, truly know, that this the chaos, the worry, the shared responsibility, is the only real strength we have. Ethan didn't hesitate. He took her hands, not with a sudden, dramatic grab, but with a slow, deliberate movement, waiting for her to pull away. She didn't. I learned that on the day of the transplant, Anya. I lay on that table, giving my marrow, and I realized that I had nothing left to protect. My pride was gone. My perfect world was a lie. All that mattered was the survival of that boy, and the survival of the honest woman who raised him alone. I chose vulnerability that day. I chose the terrifying, messy truth of being a father over the easy comfort of being a successful stranger. That choice, that fear, is the most powerful love I have ever known. The unbroken promise. Anya looked at their clasped hands. Her fingers, which had signed the divorce papers years ago, now intertwined with his. It wasn't the man she had married, full of pride and arrogance. It was a humbled, honest man who stood before her. "I don't know if I can ever forgive the old you," Anya whispered. "Don't," Ethan said. "He's gone. I'm just asking you to accept the man who is here now." Anya didn't answer with a word. She leaned in, resting her forehead against his. It was a silent, profound gesture of acceptance. The distance that had separated them for years, physical and emotional, vanished in that quiet, shared moment. It wasn't a passionate kiss or a dramatic declaration. It was an unspoken promise built on scars and survival. That night, Ethan didn't go back to his forward operating base. He stayed. Not in her bed, but on the sofa, with a blanket and the quiet permission of her presence. The next morning, Noah woke up and found both his parents in the kitchen. Anya was making tea. Ethan was burning toast. The scene was imperfect, chaotic, and utterly real. "Daddy, did you sleep here?" Noah asked. His face lit. "I did, pal," Ethan confirmed, smiling. "I think I'll be staying here for a while." Anya looked at Ethan. She didn't smile, but her eyes held a warmth that surpassed any smile. Their love story wasn't a fairy tale that restarted. It was a real, raw commitment that finally began. Did Ethan finally earn his second chance? What does their quiet acceptance mean for their future? Comment your final thoughts. Share this video with someone who needs to see that true forgiveness is possible. And subscribe to the channel for more stories of redemption.